Hello wonderful humans, and welcome back to the second last video of The Shadow Rising, the fourth book in the Wheel of Time series. Wow, I've finished it. I finished it over the weekend, and I have started The Fires of Heaven, and yeah, I've read the first 2 chapters of that. So anyway, I finished it, but today I'm going to be talking about chapters 45 to 51, 7 chapters as usual. And just in case you're new here, go back and watch my other videos. It will make more sense. But if you don't want to do that, I read a chapter of the book and then I stop and I write a page of notes in my trusty journal, and then I share them with you. So I'm going to be doing that 1 page, no more than that. Sometimes I fill in some gaps if I've written something. I'll then expand on that. I'm actually going to try not to do that quite so much today. The videos have been getting quite long. Which is fine, but it takes a lot longer for me to edit them and get them out, which means less time for reading. So I'm going to try and stick to what I've written. We'll see how that goes. But we'll start with chapter 45, The Tinker's Sword. I'm so sad for the Tinkers. Wow, this was huge for many reasons. For Aram to watch his mother die and not know how to deal with the pain of this happening. He just cannot deal with it. And it's more than just a desire to pick up a sword. It's just that inability to deal with it. The pain they must all be feeling because of the death that they've witnessed. And again, that feeling of helplessness, I suppose, but also wanting to stay true to the way of the leaf. So Aram may go in a slightly different direction, but they're all feeling that pain and everything, and the desperation for them to have braved coming to the 2 rivers, knowing exactly what welcome that they were going to receive. They knew, and they were not disappointed. I mean, they might have been disappointed, but thankfully Perrin stood up for them and convinced them, and I do think Perrin was right in that even if he hadn't been there, they would have done the right thing eventually. I think the 2 rivers spoke. Anyway, my question here, and as I said, I have kept reading, so I do have the answer, I suppose, to an extent. Do the Tinkers now cut all ties with Aram? If someone leaves or stops following the way of the leaf, do they get ignored completely? Or is it handled differently, I suppose? Or is he just no longer one of them, but is still acknowledged, isn't allowed to live with them as such, but is still acknowledged as a relative? Where does he go now? What happens to Aram now? This is a huge change for him. Assuming he survives the Trollocs, of course, which I assume he will. I think that's a fairly safe assumption to make. Alana was interested in him and was paying a lot of attention to him in this chapter, or maybe not. There was just a couple of sentences, I think. And I wonder why she's interested in him. I think Alana is an intriguing character to begin with, but anytime she pays specific attention to someone who's not Perrin, I am intrigued. So I'll be interested to see whether there's any interactions between Alana and Aram at some point. Is she just curious, or does she have some kind of secret plan, or will she do something? I don't know. It's just, there's some possibilities there. And will Perrin regret encouraging him later, or will he stand by the choice that he made to point Aram towards Tam? I actually think that he did nothing wrong in this sense. Aram was going to do what he was going to do, so he may as well be trained and know how to use the sword, because otherwise he is definitely going to get killed. So I don't think Perrin did the wrong thing, but I do wonder if he will regret encouraging that decision later. Lord Luke is too interested in Ordeth. Just in general, when the White Cloak showed up, he's too interested in him. That cannot be a coincidence, right? He has to there has to be a reason behind this. He very well could be Slayer hunting the renegade, who I assume is Ordith. Did he kill the Fade because he suspects it's working with Ordith? Is, like, given that situation, Ordith torturing one, or just a coincidence to show he's a good guy and to buy trust? And did he really do it? Like, there's a whole lot of questions there about Lord Luke and who he is. So anyway, that will continue to be a question that I will ask regularly. The White Cloaks showing up the way they did and then Perrin convincing them to join together against the Trollocs is fantastic. I thought that was a really great scene. Bornhold Jr. is incredibly angry. This is a deep, deep anger. I didn't think he'd see reason based on the last scene we'd seen him in, but Perrin broke through, and while there's no love lost there, at least they didn't have to fight each other, which I thought that was going to be the case. It was brewing. It still is brewing, I suppose. I'd say Child Buyer, the fanatic that he is going to potentially be a bigger problem than Bornhold Jr. in the long run. I'll be really interested to see, again, that dynamic and what Child Buyer has, what his future holds, I suppose. And I also assume Ordith won't come to Eamon's Field with both Perrin and Lord Luke there. I think that's just a fairly safe assumption that Ordith will stay clear. Just one note, this is an extra edition. I know earlier, I think in the book, I sort of thought that Bornhold Jr. might see that Perrin is telling the truth if he can cool down enough. I actually don't know anymore that he will be able to do that. I think there's too much anger there now, too much resentment. Based on this scene, I was taken aback. I didn't think he would be so unreasonable, but I suppose that is what the White Cloaks are. They are fanatics for a reason. They join the White Cloaks because that is who they are, and they have such a strong belief in that, and they can't be swayed, I suppose. So it does make sense, and I'm disappointed in him, but yeah, not unexpected, I suppose. Chapter 46, Veils. There is just so much going on. Another reminder that Rendra looks like Liandrin, and also that Rendra has an older sister. Is this a coincidence? I think nothing is a coincidence, ever. So, Forsaken is definitely in Tenchiko, one who plays in the shadows, and who may help unlock Nynaeve at some point in the future, potentially. If the crew are smart, they might be able to use the Forsaken for their own purposes a little bit, and this is something that Nynaeve could potentially use. And on top of that, this Forsaken can use compulsion. I wonder how many of them can use that. That's not great, because I know Lanfear has used it in a certain extent, to a certain extent, with different levels of success. I'll be curious to see. We didn't see enough of the other Forsaken, I suppose. Ishmael we did, but the others, they sort of just disappeared before we really got to see what they were capable of. That this compulsion thing though is quite scary to think about. She's got her eye, this Forsaken has her eyes on them and now knows what they know and have no idea about her at all. That's terrifying. I'm guessing it's Moghedian. I think that's how you say it. And she's likely to try get the collar, I guess. So that's interesting to see why is she in Tenchiko if she's not after the collar. But if she is after it, why doesn't she just take it? I don't know. Gelb has his eyes on Nynaeve, maybe Elaine too, so they could be inconvenienced by him again if he really thinks Egenin will pay him. Maybe not anymore now that she's fought him though and stopped him physically. She's also had an inconvenient interaction with Domin, but maybe she's not one of an inconvenient interaction. She took over his ship. I have literally called it an inconvenient interaction. But maybe she's not one of the worst Sonshin. and maybe that won't necessarily end up being a bad thing. I don't remember her being as harsh and cruel as the other Seanchan in The Great Hunt. I don't recall Domin's capture being that horrific as such. So I'm not sure. I think, I guess he'll see her at some point and tell the others, and she'll be found out and chaos will ensue. They need to listen to Tom. He's learned a lot of really useful information if they just paid attention, but they're not thinking about why the Black Aja might be in Tanchico. Why is it that they've chosen Tanchico, and how this kind of thing with Lady Amathera could be linked. Like, there's this bigger picture going on that they just they're not putting things together. They're looking at things in quite a small manner, with blinders on. They're not looking at the whole picture. Tom adds this whole picture to the thing. So Lady Amathera could be linked to it, and is she linked to the Forsaken, or am I just assuming anyone with the prefix Lord or Lady is Forsaken? It seems to be that they have a desire to be higher up and more powerful, and so it makes sense that a lot of them are seeking this Lady or Lord title. So now anyone with that, I suspect. So Lady Amathera is a suspect. Egernon is super intriguing. I really like her. Very excited to see what she uncovers as she questions everything and what this means, and who is following her. Is it the Seeker or is it someone else? This is super intriguing. Nice little nice introduction to what I hope is a new character. That she is a new character, but I hope sticks around for a while. Chapter 47, The Truth of a Viewing. I honestly think Aleida is the worst. Aleida is the worst character. I dislike her more than Leandrin. I dislike her more than basically any other character in this book. I think it's worse because we've seen that she thinks she's doing the right thing more so than the others, or at least she's convinced herself that she is doing the right thing. We can all see there's ego and Aes Sedai arrogance at its worst in her, so it's not all about her doing the right thing. She's just the worst, and I love that. I think it's really important to have these characters that you can latch onto and really dislike, and Aleida is definitely that character for me at the moment. Maybe someone else will be that. I actually I don't hate any of the other characters as much as I hate Aleida. Even Lanfear and the Forsaken, I just don't hate them as much. I think Aleida's maybe been fleshed out a little bit more than some of the others, and maybe that's why. I'll be interested to see if that continues, because she's just the worst. I am shocked by Gawain. I would have expected this from Gallard, not him though, but maybe that's the point of this whole thing. I was expecting, if anyone, Gallard would follow the rules, and so Gawain was ripe for Aleida to manipulate, given his obvious concern for Elaine, and it's more of an obsession for Gwen as well, which I think it maybe is an unhealthy obsession. I'm looking forward to that too. If he betrays a Gwen, like in Min's vision, imagine the impact that will have on Elaine, and on everyone, but on Elaine, for her brother, who she trusted more than anyone else, to be the one who betrays the whole thing. He already has. I don't know how that he's going to come back from this. I'll be very, very interested to see all this. I am interested where Galad is, because he's disappeared, and I would like to know where he is, but I'm guessing I find out about that at some point in another chapter or another book. I wonder if Swan will put more stock in Min's visions and suggestions, like when she suggested bringing Gawain into the circle of knowledge. I think if they had done that, maybe they would have been able to have him on side, given they've all come true. Everything that Min has seen has come true. Everything that Swan brushed off has come true, which we expected, but she doesn't. They seem to not realize that how accurate these visions really are. But I suppose that makes sense because they don't understand them, so they assume that there's, yeah. How heartbreaking for her to have lost her warder and most likely many friends in a latest uprising, insurrection, whatever you want to call it. This is quite devastating what's happened, and I am really intrigued by what the actual fallout is. How many people died? This is what I want to know. How many died? How many warders? How many Aes Sedai? How many are left? How many are missing? It's intriguing. We don't get those details as far as I am aware, and that's okay. I wouldn't actually expect to get them, but it would be nice. Why would Elena think that now is a good time to weaken the Aes Sedai by killing so many blue and particularly greens, which is what's implied, that the blues and the greens have that were in the tower have died or escaped. I know there was fighting, so I get that there was going to be some death, but it's all ridiculous. Why would you do that if you could have something a little bit more peaceful? Why would you create this instability in the Aes Sedai right when you have the Dragon Reborn around, and you know that you're heading into the final battle? Is that what they call it? You know that this is all coming, so why would you create this instability other than your ego? She thinks she's right. Oh, she's the worst. And shows how narrow-minded and wrong she really is. She has made her mind up. And this is probably the thing with any prophecies, any future tellings. They make their mind up and they lock themselves into that. Rand's doing it a little bit too, in a different way. But they lock themselves into their interpretation without realizing that there's other things that they could be. There are other ways that things could unfold but still fulfill the prophecy. So anyway, she's a terrible person. It won't win her long-term devotion from the Aes Sedai, and so I do wonder how long her actual reign as a Merlin seat will actually be. I really like that Logain has joined Swan and crew. I'm happy to know he will be a part of the story moving forward. I honestly have no idea how important some of these characters will be and how some won't. Min's visions about him are suggesting that he is going to actually be someone who is relevant long into the story. So that's also really great. And I also hope I'm right and that all three will be healed at some point, of being stilled or gentled at some point in the future. Nynaeve, I don't know, but potentially with her healing ability and her incredible power, she could manage to do something, maybe. I hope. I would like that for them. But you never know. Chapter 48, An Offer Refused. What I'm loving right now is how Robert Jordan is laying things that I know are clues. I know that he's doing it, but I can't for the life of me work out if what I'm gathering, which clues I'm picking up on, or even what I'm putting together is actually relevant at all. So some things that I'm noticing could be part of the big thing. Some of them might just be irrelevant, and I love it. And I might be piecing them together in a completely wrong way, and that's awesome as well. I really like how it's not obvious. I think it's fantastic. Does that make sense? I think it makes sense. Matt's been offered Isendre for a Tarvalon mark by Killy, which he has and hasn't been able to be free of it, if I can remember correctly. He's just always got this Tarvalon mark, and now he's been asked for a Tarvalon mark to pay for Isendre. I think that's telling me something. Kadir won't be happy about that, and I can imagine Isendre won't relish the idea of being for sale. Kadir has offered information for a price as well, but fair enough, Rand has no idea what the information is or what the price actually would mean. But either Matt or Rand's refusal, maybe both, will come back to bite them somehow. in some way, maybe both of them. Is Natael just after basic Lehman stuff in questioning Rand and Matt? What's he doing with the Shido each evening, laying seeds of discontent for his entertainment, or with his entertainment? He's a very sus character. I'm enjoying Avienda's clear distress at what she saw in Rudian. A custom Elaine won't accept. Most likely I was right, and this refers to sister wives. Very entertaining, and this will definitely keep Rand on his toes if it proves correct, and that is awesome. I enjoy the roof mistress stuff and how it connects to what happened when the Isle arrived in the Two Rivers and they offered Mistress Elvia gifts as roof mistress. I thought that was really great as well. And Avienda's obviously learning to channel. Managing a fireball is pretty great. Did they try other stuff first, or was that the first attempt and that was fire? Like, that's cool. I want to see what's going on with everyone else in the wasteland. We're focusing too much on Rand right now, and so in the Dragon Reborn we weren't focusing on Rand almost at all, and now we're focusing on him too much, and I want to see what's going on with Moraine and Gwen and Avienda. That's where I want to be focusing, as well as Rand. I like a nice mix. It's good though. It was I like that I don't know exactly what's going on with the women, and I'm hoping that we discover more of that in the next book. Chapter 49, Cold Rocks Hold. Leanne's home sounds fantastic. The perfect blend of homey but not permanent, which I thought was really interesting. How it felt permanent without being permanent. It's got little furniture, the rugs and the taps, like the features of the house could easily be packed up and moved on, is how I see that. So they are not completely tethered to the place, even if it's been home for a really long time. Also, there's the availability of wood, and difficulty to transport it would prevent much furniture in different ways. Stone furniture is an option, but you'd have to be able to carve. Like, there's a whole lot of other things. But I just feel that not having much furniture is a lifestyle kind of thing, and that it's temporary that they're in the wasteland, so they don't have fully furnished things. Anyway, Rand's learning about sister wives and then imagining Min and Lane. If that's not foreshadowing of some kind, I don't know what is. And Avienda's avoided discussing it because she doesn't want to betray Elaine, and already feels she has because of what she saw in Rudian. Again, I'm super excited to see that all unfold. Matt is unlikely to ever stop noticing the pretty women he comes across. I'm beginning to think Isendra is an option for this possible wife, but so could any number of women he flirts with. Any of them could be his potential wife. I wasn't expecting such a large number to gather. 12,000. 12,000 Isle due to meet Rand is a lot more than I thought would come. I mean, when it's all explained, it actually does make sense, but I wasn't expecting such a huge crowd. And a month to wait, that is a very long time. Will something force his hand earlier, or can he afford to wait a month? It would be time well spent learning more of the Isle customs. He's still keeping his plans very close to his chest. I actually have no idea if we'll get an inkling of what he's planning this book, or if we'll have to wait. I feel like we're not going to find out exactly what his plans are for quite some time. Lan hasn't really been doing much lately, but I get the feeling he's not in a great mood. Maybe he's feeling the pull in two directions, while also having to sit back while others act. He's a man of action, so that wouldn't sit well with him at all. I actually really like with Lan that I've been able to sort of, in his really, really brief moments, you've been able to gather this whole journey in this book, or I think anyway, without it being complete. It's not a complete journey because the book isn't a complete story as such, but Lan, with very little time on paper, I can't say very little screen time, but with very little to do, he still had quite an impact when I devote a little bit of my page to writing about him. Chapter 50, Traps. Who is this leaf bringer? Ruark brings up this leaf bringer, and who is it? Connected to the Drakkar, and how did Rand know what a Drakkar was? I don't think he's come across one. It's the first time I remember him coming up against one, so unless he's either read about them, seen pictures, which is all possible, or he's got some of that memory stuff going on, potentially just based on the description though, or his research. Not a super important question, but it did make me curious. The maidens have given Rand their approval to try attract Avienda's attention, and that whole tea ceremony was just fun to read. Rand is so clueless as to what's going on, and it's fun. And Avienda may be softening towards him a little bit, which is nice. Very, very slightly, but still just softening a little bit. Rand wants to confide in Moiraine. Like, you can tell he's wanting to trust her. He so desperately wants to trust her, and maybe when she learns of what's happened in Tar Valon, she can make these oaths to him. There is no way she'll let Elada gain control of him if she can help it. I think that could be a real turning point when Moiraine finds out about Tar Valon. It may actually be what they both need to better work together. I think it's fair that he wants her oaths. And I can understand why she doesn't want to give them either. But I do think it will be a better relationship for the two of them, better working relationship, and better success for everyone if they can actually do that. Lanfear is teaming up with a dream blur, but who is it? Is it this leaf bringer or someone completely different? Who knows? Also, basic confirmation, Moghedien the spider is in Tanchico. It's a bit concerning, the wise ones, Sienna particularly, who did die. I guess maybe do they have the foretelling of when they died? Maybe that's why they knew. It's a bit concerning the wise ones knew it was too dangerous to be in Rand's dreams on this particular night, and they knew something was coming. They should have just warned him. Why didn't they warn Rand or others to be on alert? I know that they thought it was a dream thing, but they should have warned him. I always say this, they should have done this. I know why they're not doing it, but they should have. Not wanting to concern people, I suppose, is a part of it. Not wanting to influence events. There's a whole lot of reasons. So, off to meet the other Isle too early. A fair decision, but not without repercussions, is my guess. And then a little note on Matt, on the side of my book, as usual. It can't be a coincidence that he has a spear, the same weapon as the Isle people. And I'd love to know exactly why he's so fixated on Isandra. Also, maybe there's a grey man in the peddler's convoy. Maybe it's not a Forsaken, maybe it's a grey man. I just do think, though, this fact that he's been given a spear, there can't be a coincidence there. I really do think that that's saying something, but I don't know, and I will keep reading to find out, I suppose. Chapter 51, Revelations in Tanchico. Many revelations in Tanchico, but not many we didn't already know, which I thought was interesting. A lot of them had already been put together, we knew, but the characters didn't. Domon recognised Eganin, but it appears she's already questioning the beliefs that she's been raised with, which is great. So much so, she says she let the Suldam go after she realised she could be taught to channel. That's interesting in itself. This, incredibly interesting for someone with such deeply entrenched views as one of the Seanchan, to be able to be with and learn from Aes Sedai and people living on this continent. She's acknowledging something the Seanchan have never acknowledged, as far as I am aware, that they don't know everything. They're not necessarily, they don't have all the answers. So I really like her, and I'm so looking forward to seeing more of her. I hope she does turn out to be one of the people they can trust, because I've enjoyed getting to know her so much. There's still the issue of the person who has followed her, though. That could be a problem. They now know where the Black Aja are, although they can't work out how or why they're there given the White Cloak's presence. Amathera is still an enigma to me and to the whole group. It seems what they've uncovered is probably proof she's been in Tenchiko longer than the Forsaken have been free. So maybe not one of the Forsaken, but she could still be a dark friend. But she also could be an unwitting hostage. It could go either way. I honestly don't know. How great to have such a mystery. We know there are many key players in Tenchiko, but they don't all make sense yet. Why they're there, who they are, what their plans or purpose is. It makes so much sense that Nynaeve's reaction to Eganon's identity was stronger than Elaine's. She took it personally that Egwene was captured and enslaved. They made her fail. The Seanchan made Nynaeve fail to protect one of her people. Elaine is more slow to make judgment just in general, important for a future queen. So it makes sense for both of them, and I think that was really, really well done. But that is it. I'm sorry if I spoke very, very fast today, but I think I've only got a couple of bits of editing to do, which will be nice. I thought this was fantastic. It's always difficult, this last little bit, because it's a lot of setup always in each of the books so far. This video, the second last video, is always a lot of setup, but there was a lot more revelations, and revelations in Tenchiko, but revelations in general happening in this part of the book. And I found that it was just more was pushing it forward. Every chapter something was pushing the story forward in a really, really great way. And wow, I loved it. Wow, I love this book. It's awesome, and I'm so glad that I'm actually getting the chance to talk to you about what I've read. So I'd love to hear what you think. Were you as suspicious? I am actually convinced so many people of the Forsaken. There's too many people that I suspect for them to all be Forsaken. So when you first read this book, were you as suspicious as I was? Is that just, am I naturally a suspicious person, or has that been the intent? I think it's Robert Jordan's intention for us to be suspicious of people that we meet, but am I just extra suspicious on top of that? That's probably what I would like to know. Were you as suspicious as I was, as I am? Otherwise, let me know your thoughts on this part of the book. How are you going? If you're reading it for the first time with me, if you're not, how do you feel about this part of the book? Are you excited about the next video, which will come out either tomorrow or Saturday, as usual, Friday or Saturday. Otherwise, that is me done, and I'm really, really glad that you could stay to the end. Make sure you like the video if you haven't already, comment down below, share with friends if you'd like to, and subscribe to the channel to make sure you stay up to date with whatever I put out. And I will see you for the next video in the next couple of days. Catch you later. Bye.